In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this really cool pterodactyl just from some junk modelling bits, mainly a plastic bottle, a couple of toilet roll tubes, maybe 4, some cardboard, masking tape, and if you happen to have some paint and maybe a pair of googly eyes. Look how awesome he is. I think he turned out really well. Stick around for the video, guys. Let's begin by making our pterodactyl's head. What you're going to need for this is 2 of these toilet roll cardboard tubes like this. I'm going to take one and start by snipping the corner off of one of them. So you can see I've cut this triangle shape off the bottom just using a pair of scissors to create kind of like a weird half tube on the end there. Then I took some cardboard and I drew a strange fin shape. This can be any shape that you want. I made mine so that it went kind of like a wiggly worm up and out like this, and it came to a point on the end. And that piece that we've cut off, we're going to glue this fin here by pinching the tube together. You can use a stapler at this point, you can use a Pritt stick or a glue gun or some tape. I'm going to use my glue gun. You should have something that looks more or less like this. I've pinched it here, you can pinch it a bit more and make this a bit more of a nicer shape at the bottom here. We're now going to make his jaw, which is the second cardboard toilet roll tube. Now with this second one, you flatten it in your hand like this and you take your scissors and you cut 2 skinny triangles. I've pre-cut mine, so I'll show you. I cut a big triangle out the middle and I was left with these 2 triangles to make the top and the bottom jaw that look like this. And we're going to glue these onto our first toilet roll tube that has the fin attached, like so, to make his lovely jaw, like this. And again, you can use glue or tape or a stapler, whatever you'd like to do to make his jaw stick onto his head. I'm going to use my trusty glue gun, and then we'll move on to making the body. So you should be left with something that looks like this. You can see his mouth and jaw here, his head, fin here, and the tube squished together there. So his eye's going to go roughly about here when we decorate it. So there is his mouth and his head, all done. Place that to the side, and now let's move on to the body. So for the body, you're going to need a plastic bottle and some cardboard and a toilet roll tube. So to start with the bottle, I took a large plastic bottle like this one, and I drew on a kind of strange half circle shape on the bottom here, and I cut it off. So I was left with this shape. So from this side you can see I kept one of the little feet on the bottom, and I cut sort of like a quarter of the bottle off. Now you won't need this bit, so you can get rid of it to the side, and you should be left with something that looks like this. Okay? On the top I made a hole. I'm going to suspend mine using some elastic or string. So I made a hole already, so I can thread that through in a moment. Once you've got your bottle like this, take off the label, so that goes in the bin too, and turn it around so you've got this part that you've cut off. Now I'm going to change the shape of the bottle by squeezing it together and using some masking tape to kind of squeeze the bottle and keep it in place. I'm also going to cover the bottle in this masking tape so that I can paint it later on. You will find that your acrylic paint will probably come off the bottle if you do not cover the bottle. So you'll need to either cover it with masking tape or do your paper mache or your mud rock so that you can paint the surface. So I'm pinching the bottle together like this, and I'm wrapping the tape around to bring the 2 ends together. And this is going to give us the pterodactyl's body shape. They have this strange round body which flicks out into a really skinny tail and a leg section, and that's what we're mimicking here. So I'm just taking long strips of masking tape, nothing special, pinching the bottle together to bring those edges that I cut close together and wrapping the tape around. Okay, I'm going to do that all the way up my bottle, even over the pieces that I haven't cut, because like I said, I want to make sure that I'm able to colour and paint them in afterwards, and this will give this a surface that the paint will stick to. Once you've done covering your bottle in masking tape, you'll then move on to your neck piece. So I'm going to finish covering mine and then I'll get back to you in a moment. And we'll start attaching the head and the neck. I've more or less covered this in newspaper, and I kind of like masking tape, sorry, and I like the texture that the masking tape gives. It gives it kind of like a skin texture, which will help it when we paint it. Now I've noticed that I've got this weird jagged shape at the bottom, which I don't really like and I want to cut off. So I'm going to use some scissors just to round off that little bit at the bottom to give his body more of a round shape. Now because I've cut through that layer of masking tape that I added, I just need to add a little bit extra over the bottom and also cover this tail here. So we've got our head and we've got our body. How do we attach the two together? What I'm going to use is another one of these toilet roll tubes. So this time I'm going to cut into the toilet roll tube to bend the tube and make it into kind of like a weird shape. So I've got my toilet roll tube here. You can sort of see I've pinched the tube together and cut a triangle out of both sides. So I was left with this shape. Now when I push the two cut ends together, it kind of gives me like an elbow shape, and that's what I'm going to use to stick my head onto my body like this, okay? Now you can use whatever you'd like to stick your head to your body. You could use masking tape, that will work really well. I would recommend putting some tape around this edge here, which I'm going to do right now, to keep it together. You could also use a glue gun, or you could staple your head to your neck, but you're definitely going to have to use something other than the stapler to bring the neck onto the body. So I'm just going to use some masking tape like this to keep my elbow piece or my neck piece together. I'm going to use my trusty glue gun, but again, use whatever you have at hand. If you've still got masking tape and you would prefer to use that, use your masking tape. So now we're going to stick the head onto the neck and then the neck onto the body. So once you've got your elbow shaped like this already, simply put, the head is going to stick onto the body, onto the neck. We're going to cut a little triangle piece out of this top section. So I'm cutting down here, just like this. And I'm going to use that piece that I squashed together to stick his head onto his neck like this, okay? So you can see here, that piece that we squashed together when we stuck the glue, when we stuck the tube together to stick the back fin on, I'm now going to stick onto here. And that creates a really cool neck shape, which sits really well onto this head. And then I'm going to piece together the body onto the neck like this. So here's our pterodactyl so far. Our head, our neck, and our body is all attached. What do we need next? We need some wings. Now the easiest way to make your wings is to get some cardboard and to draw out some wing shapes. Draw one and then you can use it to trace and make a second one. So I drew my one. I made it kind of like a Batman wing shape. So I made sure that I had these weird shapes that were kind of angular at the top and made it really pointed on one end. When I cut this out, I left a little flap here, which I scored down so that I could stick this to the body and have this wing sit off of the body itself. So if I turn it like this, you'll see that I have bent the wing once I cut it out to give it a shape. So I've bent the cardboard and it now has this kind of cool wing shape. When I stick this piece onto the bottle, it will sit off of the bottle like this. So once I've done one, and again, here's my shape of my wing, I cut a second one by tracing this, cut it out, did the same thing, scored a little bit on the end here to make this flap, and then bent it to make it into this cool shape. So you'll need two of these. Now you want to make these about the same length as the entire body of your pterodactyl, okay? So that's a good way to look at the scale of how big your wing needs to be. Once you've got two, like this, you can then attach them to your pterodactyl body. I recommend using some tape for this. I'm going to use my glue gun and some masking tape, and you're going to stick one either side. Now have a play with where you would like your wings to sit. I like to have them sitting a little bit further back. It gives a better kind of like shape when he's suspended from the air. If you have them too far forwards, his neck and his head kind of like get lost. because I like to sit mine a little bit back, even though this is not technically correct for a pterodactyl. His wings should be quite further forward. But anyway, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to glue on my wing either side of my body, one on each side, using my glue gun and using some masking tape just to secure it on. And then we're going to start to decorate it. So here he is all stuck together. Again, I added some elastic in that hole that I mentioned earlier. And he's ready to be painted. And as you can see, when he kind of jumps up and down, his wings flap. So he flies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover him in a base coat colour. I'm thinking to do him kind of like a rusty brown orange colour. So I'll probably base coat him in a brown. And once he's base coated, then we can start doing some dry brushing like we did on our previous dinosaur projects. So let me grab my paint, get him base coated, and I'll Okay, so here he is all painted in his base coat of dark brown. I'm going to add some orange, yellow, and probably like a soft grey white colour onto his body just to make him stand out. So I'm going to add some light colour into his wings, not on this part but more towards this bottom area to make it look a little bit more thin skin. I'm going to add some lightness onto his face, his fin, onto his belly and his neck, just to lighten up his body a little bit. And I'm going to do that using our dry brushing technique, which we've used when we made our dino feet or sliders, our dino tail and our dinosaur hands. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll add the finishing touches to finish. So here he is all painted and finished. I stuck some googly eyes on and made like a cat-like eye, just to give him a little bit more definition. You can see that I've dry brushed orange over the outer part of the wing, and then I've made this inner part light. So I used kind of like a straw creamy colour and a really bright acid yellow to do that. I've also done it on his belly, and if you can see the texture that the masking tape on the bottle itself gives it kind of like this old crinkly skin, which looks really cool up close. So the only thing that I forgot about was the fact that his beak has little indentations of teeth marks, and I forgot to put that in at the start. So I'm going to grab a pair of scissors and just snip a couple of triangles out, just to give the illusion of his beak having ridges and teeth. You don't have to do this all the way along, or you don't have to do it at all actually if you don't want to. But I just thought I'd give him a little bit more character and take a couple of little triangles out and give his beak a little bit more shape. And also to show you that you can change up your design. You don't have to stick with this one that I've made. You can give it different characteristics and maybe make your own dinosaur. So he is a carnivorous dinosaur, so he eats meat. He probably would eat quite a lot of fish and other smaller birds and mammals because of his ability to swoop down and catch them off guard. So I'll show you just on the side what I've been doing. Oh, there you go. So I've literally just taken a pair of scissors and chomped out a couple of triangles out of his beak, and I have made his beak look like it's got ridges or even small teeth. I've got one more. So once you've painted it, you could add some extra things with a permanent marker, and that will give it a more 3D effect. So there you go. So you can add these little details using just a little simple pair of scissors to create some extra details. I think he's pretty much finished though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang him up, display him somewhere where the wind maybe catches him a little bit, so he has a little bit of a flight, and his wings also flap around a little bit in the wind too. But there you go, he's all finished. How simple was that? Just from a some cardboard tubes, a little bit of cardboard, masking tape and a plastic bottle. There's your DIY pterodactyl.